What's going on, everybody? Gonna wait till some people start coming in. In the meantime, got two cameras going. Before we start, I'm just gonna let some folks roll in, and then we'll get it going. But we'll be doing some oxidation testing tonight. And I'll tell everything what's going on with it here in a little bit. But I want to make sure we get a few people here first before I have to repeat myself 40,000 times. But in the meantime, a little bit of United Rye. If you tried United Rye, let me know. We're big fans of it, obviously. And if you like Sagamore, then you'll love this one. Yeah, cheers, Drifting Dram. Yeah, Oak Series is great. Actually, was contemplating whether I was going to grab that one or just the Oak Collection. Hey, David, how's it going over here in YouTube land? So I got two things. I got YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn live over here, Instagram live over here. So just trying to do a little bit here. There's Betsy over on Facebook. What's going on, everybody? I'll give it about another minute or two, and then I'll tell you exactly what I'll be doing here because it's an oxidation test. This is something that was given to me by, hey, DJ Redbird, what's going on, man? Let's see who else is over here. Travis, what's going on? Mark H, get it, Virginia boys. So what we'll be doing is, and there's Nick Lewis over at LinkedIn. I think we just hit every platform. That was amazing, except Twitter. I guess Twitter and and Twitch. We're missing those two, but who knows? There we go. Whiskey Morg, what's up, man? Karen. I'll be telling you what I'm doing here in a minute, but the idea is that we're going to be doing an oxidation test. This is something that was given to me by Randy Sullivan, who you may or may not know from Bourbon Real Talk, and I'll tell you everything here in a minute. But I am drinking some United Rye right now because got to rep the brand. I think that's part of what it is. And there's Ryan. Ryan joined too. But all right. So tell you about what's happening here. While I drink this United Rye, I'll tell you exactly what's going on here. Matt, karaoke contest. Well, have Ryan try to join in. Maybe we'll try to karaoke. We'll see what happens here. There you go. Paul's sipping on the toasted bourbon right now. The Oak Collection just came out. Cheers, Paul. Thanks for that, man. So I'm not going to share the screen only because I don't know exactly. I don't want people to find the form able to do this, but I have 7 different bourbon samples in front of me here right now, and I'll bring them out. Just tell you what. I'll bring them out just to show you what they look like, and then I'm going to read everything on here because we have to go through it to rate every single one of these. Not sure everything about what's in here, but I'll give you an idea about what's happening. So myself and Ryan were both invited to do this by Randy Sullivan. So thank you, Randy, for being able to do this. I know that other people in the industry were. I know Nancy Fraley was, and a few other people too. But the idea is that it is a split test to try to figure out, can people actually tell the difference between bourbon that has been exposed to light, whether it's been exposed to oxygen for a very long time? You know what I think there's a lot of, I guess, thoughts out there to try to figure out, oh, if you have a bourbon that's been sitting half empty for 2 years, that's going to taste a lot different than a bourbon that's been sitting full and you try them side by side. Well, this is going to be a test that's going to be trying to figure out, is it real or I guess, is it bullshit? So let's go ahead and I'll tell you, here it is. So here's the background. So Randy wrote this. He goes, 2 years ago, I purchased 4 bottles of whiskey. And if I'm not mistaken, these are all bottles. These are all Maker's Mark in here. So 2 years ago, I purchased 4 bottles of whiskey. I mixed all 4 bottles together to eliminate any batch variance. I filled 1/2 ounce sample bottles, capped them, and put them in a Ziploc bag, stored them in a temperature controlled environment with no exposure to light. Then I filled the 4 bottles back up, but only halfway. One I capped and left it untouched in a temperature-controlled environment with no exposure to light. So that's the first one. That might be number 1 here. So, by the way, C is the control, as you can see right there. So C is going to be the control. And so the first one untouched in a temperature controlled environment with no exposure to light. The second, where is it? Second, it says I gassed with argon preservative spray and then I capped it and left it untouched in a temperature controlled environment with no exposure to light. The third, I have been pouring around a 2-ounce pour out of one time per week and then pouring it back into the bottles, cycling out the air. I stored it in a temperature controlled environment with no exposure to light. The fourth, I have been pouring around a 2-ounce pour out of one time per week and then pouring it back into the bottles. But before I capped it, I gassed it with argon preservative spray every week. I stored it in a temperature controlled environment with no exposure to light. I also took some of the original whiskey and filled up two 375 milliliter storage bottles, capped them, and wrapped the lids with parafilm. When I stored in my garage, one I stored in my, oh gosh, there must be two of them then. I'm already getting out of hands here. One I stored in my garage, wrapped in a brown paper bag so that it had full exposure to the massive temperature swings in Texas, but no exposure to oxygen or light. The second I stored in a window seal inside my home, so it is exposed to light, but not the major temperature swings or oxygen. So actually, now that I realize this, I guess it would be a bad science experiment if I knew exactly which one was argon gas, which one was temperature controlled and whatnot. So I'm assuming these are all have been randomized specifically for me. And once I put in my entrance, then I'll know the key code exactly which one was which. So here it is. So we have a control. I'm guessing that's the C. No oxygen, light, or heat. Oxygen once, no light, no heat. Oxygen once with argon, no light, no heat. Oxygen 104 times, no light, no heat. Oxygen and argon 104 times, no light, no heat. Full heat, no oxygen, no light. Full light, no oxygen, no heat. The purpose of the experiment is to see if the effect of any oxygen, light, or heat has the whiskey over an extended period of time, and if argon gas has any effect on the degradation of whiskey. Because some people go and they buy some argon gas to actually go and refill or like put in their bottles to try and preserve it for a very long time. And as McGlenn cared, don't forget the one with battery acid. Hopefully that one's around here somewhere too. All right. I have attempted to assemble all of these I have attempted to assemble all of the industry's most recognized experts. Thank you. I'm not going to say I'm an expert, but I appreciate the invitation here to taste these samples, record the results, and hopefully settle once and for all how concerned whiskey enthusiasts need to be about open bottles. So first, taste your control sample, labeled with the letter C. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put that. And the control sample will be we'll put it in the Barker Way bar. So if you see me pull it up, the Barker Way bar, Glencairn, that's going to be the control. All right, so and I have to give this a score on a 100-point scale. Well, and it says typically scores would be between 70 to 100. Anything below 70 would be reserved for something you would absolutely not drink. Then give each blind sample a score and attempt to guess which treatment that sample was exposed to. In doing so, we will be able to establish if the whiskey has improved in flavor or degraded and identify if there is a flavor produced by this treatment that experienced drinkers are able to recognize. If you want to do this tasting with someone else present, or you happen to not finish your samples, you'd like to pass them along to someone else, feel free to do so, blah, blah, blah. But here we are. Okay, so here we go. So here is the control sample. I mean, tell me, it just smells like good bourbon whiskey over here. All right, been neglecting people here on YouTube. Yes, this is extremely nerdy drifting dreams to be able to go through all this. Tommy asks, "Is this the Wade thing?" Yes, this is the Wade thing. So this whole reason started is because Wade has been everybody knows that Wade Woodard. He's been on the show a few times. He's a wealth of knowledge. He's also probably one of the most biggest curmudgeons of whiskey, but we love him anyway. But he is very much thinking that if you think that your whiskey changes over time, that it's all in your head. It doesn't actually do so. So this is going to be one of those tests that are going to help try to determine is that a real thing? Is it Matt? Is there a prize to see you can comment on all the platforms? I don't know. I don't really think there's a surprise. I would have said I would have giving you the rest of them, but I just killed my control sample. Jay-Z says, it looks like this is an experiment conjured up during 2020. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people had some time during that time to figure it out. Oh, Ryan's already dropping his score. C is 80. The control is an 80. I'm going to put my name in here as well before I forget everything. Contact information, Kenny at bourbonpursuit.com, which feel free to email me. Always happy to read stuff. Secret code. Yes, I have a secret code for my instructions. I got to pull that out real quick. Where is it? And Sullivan. Where's my secret code? I would show you the survey, but I don't want you all to see it, and then I don't want to get in trouble because I screwed the pooch on it. All right, there's my secret code. All right. What score would you give the control sample on a 100-point scale? Keep in mind, below a 70 would be undrinkable. Ryan said 80. I'm going to go higher than that. I'd say 83. Got a little bit of a woody note at the end, a little bit of bitterness. You could tell it's probably a 89 to 93 proof. That's what I would venture to guess. Plus, I have a whole set. I've got 7 different Glencairns here with me, so I want to make sure that I don't skew the results by using the same Glencairn twice. So that was that. I do not have any liquid death. I'm just going with regular water here. Yes, Ryan, I went higher than 83. It's my Lunazol tequila one. Anybody catch a tequila episode today? Let me know what you think. It was one of those ones that I really enjoyed it to actually be able to come on here and talk about something different than whiskey once. And I think I loved it even more is because Ryan got his ass handed to when every single time he brought up a tequila, he's like, Alfonso said, it's not a good tequila. That's all full of additives and sugars. And it's basically drinking Fireball tequila. All right. So let's go to the next one. Let's see. So what score would you give sample 1? Okay, I'm going to pull sample 1 out here. On a 100-point scale, keep in mind 70 would be below. All right. Sample 1. All right, I got a little bit of control left, so at least I can go back to it. Sample 1. We'll see if it's any different. I can't really taste too much of a difference. Maybe it is in my head. That's maybe the shortest experiment ever. There's maybe if I had to make it, I mean, it's like the slightest little bit difference. It's not even, I wouldn't even consider it not even it's minute. I mean, I'll probably rate it again at 83. I really don't think it's that different. Ryan says it's not. He thinks it's a little bit lighter. Man, and that's what the answers here. It says you can choose which one. Of course, the oxygen, blah 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 blah, or full heat, full light. And then there's 2 other options. It says I detect a difference, but could not venture to guess, or I do not detect enough difference to venture a guess. I would probably. I don't know. I might just have to save that towards the end and do just choose C all the way down or something because I'm not too sure. For this one, I'm going to say I do not detect enough difference to venture a guess. Tasting notes for sample 1. God damn it! I wish I would have read that before I started putting it down. It tastes just like this control. That's my tasting notes. I would say typical. You've got a little oak on the back end, slight bitterness, and I'd say just probably a little bit of brown sugar up front. Brown sugar up front. And I'm already can't spell up front. All right. Moving on to number 2. All right. So I'm going to set this. I'm going to run out of space here real quick. Ooh, shelves. All right. Number 2. Moving on. And I know Ryan, he's testing these along with me in the background here, but the thing is I believe all of our samples are different. I might be wrong, but who knows? So we'll have to go through, because the thing is they want to make sure that nobody's influenced by anything else. All right, so sample 2. See if we can get a difference here. Halftime, I should rip on the keyboard. That keyboard, actually, that's my daughter. She's been playing a lot of piano. She plays it every single day when she comes home. She's the one that loves it. So on the nose here, I think it's a little bit brighter. I think it's a little bit sweeter. Still that oak characteristic that's on there. Taste is a lot different. Taste, I might actually go, I don't know. It's like it's a good and a bad thing. It has almost like a dusty funk to it. And hey, what's up there, Cruz? Cruz got some flags. What's going on, man? Yeah, I'm with you, Ryan. I think 2 is a little more sweet on the nose. The back, I think it has almost like a little bit of a I don't want to say a dusty funk, but yeah, Ryan hit it. Cornbread, a little more oaky, I guess I would say to it as well. It's up there, everybody on YouTube land over here too. I don't know. I'd probably rate this a little bit higher. I'll go 85. Why not? And then, which treatment do you think number 2 is exposed to? So I had to take a guess. Full heat, full light, no oxygen, no heat. One oxygen once with argon. I'm gonna say it's got no heat into it. I'm gonna say oxygen 104 times. I don't know what the 104 was again. I know I read through there, but I'm a better judge than Ryan. He gives 84. I give it 85. Tasting notes for 2. I should really start thinking of this when I'm doing it. Rusty funk in the back. Cornbread. And yeah, we'll just stuff with that. Dusty funk and cornbread. That's good enough. All right. A bit of water. Number 3. 3. See right here. Going to 3. 3. And it's going in my 4 Roses limited edition small batch 2020 Glencairn. And the cap came off. So if you're just joining us and you're wondering what the hell's going on here, so I was invited along with Ryan to be a part of a series of tests to try to determine if your whiskey changes due to oxidation or heat or light, no light, and stuff like that. So this is the ability to, well, actually just kind of collect data from people. Tommy's asked, am I also on TikTok living? No, I didn't say I haven't given up on TikTok yet, but I have definitely slowed down how much I've been doing there. Not because I wanted to. I just don't know if I have much to talk about anymore. Plus, it takes like an hour to create a video, so it's a little bit harder than just going live on here. All right. 3. All right, this is a little bit different on the nose. Uh, Unless it's just I've been doing it and just woofing it in so hard that it's maybe that should be a thing, woofing it in. I've been taking it in so hard that I'm not getting as much on the nose. More of slight corn, slight chocolate malt to it. Oh shit. Taste wise is way different. It's super sweet. It's very corny. That's crazy. Scunsman says that the variables also account for time. So I'm going to rate this one, then I'll go back and read a little bit just for anybody that's just now joining us, so you kind of understand what we're doing and what the samples are doing. What I would rate this one as? I'd say 85 again. Actually, if I gave the last one 85, I'll have to give this one 86. Only because this one, it brings a little more of a sweet characteristic to it. It's not bitter on the back end. So that's what I would do. Westport Custom Lord. So this is the Four Roses Limited Edition 2021. Ryan gave an 86 too. What do you know? DP merch. Is Wade Woodard involved? This was actually created because of Wade Woodard. All right. What would this one be a guess of? Oxygen once with I'm gonna go oxygen once with argon. That's what I'm gonna guess. No light, no heat. Oxygen once with argon, no light, no heat. No freaking clue, but just a guess. Bright and fruity tooty. There's a little bit of slight bitterness in the back, but there's a little bit more corn there. And then as Tommy just put in the chat over here too, is that you can go and look at Wade's blog. It's over at tatertalk.com. Yes, it's a real thing. Tater-talk.com. And there is an article called Did My Bourbon Change in the Bottle? A 1-year test. And this is to help talk about it. Because Wade is of the guess that your bottle doesn't change. Everything stays the same. However, it's your mind and your thoughts that go and think that, oh, it must have changed since the last time I talked or had it, because, that's just how your brain operates, I guess. All right. So I'll give some more background here. Put that back on the shelf. So for anybody that's joining us right now, just real quickly, this was sent to me by Randy Sullivan. He runs Bourbon Real Talk. You can go and check that out. He's got his own podcast. He's also got Instagram and everything like that too. But this was a way to try to figure out if whiskey changes over time. And so this was a 2-year experiment, and we're finally tasting it right now to try and figure out exactly what happened. So he took 4 bottles of whiskey, blended them all together to make sure that there was no batch variance. So everybody had this. So you start off the same type of whiskey, and then you filled half-ounce samples right here. And capped them, but put them in a Ziploc bag and stored them in different temperature-controlled environments with either no exposure to light and different types of ways. So he put some, and here's what it is. Actually, I'll just go down to the options here. So you have oxygen once, basically putting it into oxygen and then storing it with no light and no heat. And then the other one is putting with oxygen and then spraying with argon gas, because people take argon gas and spray it thinking that it's going to help preserve their whiskey over time. And then also putting it with a place that gets no light, no heat. And then the other one is oxygen in 104 times. So the 104 times, if I get this correctly, is that what he would do is I filled half-ounce sample bottles, capped them, put them in a Ziploc bag, blah, blah, blah. Then I filled the 4 bottles back up, but only halfway. One I capped and left it. Oh, never. He didn't put them in here. He put them back into there. So he filled the 4 bottles back up, but only halfway. One I capped and left it untouched in a temperature controlled environment with no exposure to light. The second, I gassed with argon preservative spray, then capped it and left it untouched in a temperature controlled environment with no exposure to light. The third, I have been pouring around a 2-ounce pour out of 1 time per week and then pouring it back into the bottle, cycling out the air. I stored it in a temperature controlled environment with no exposure to light. The fourth did the same exact thing, but before he capped it, he gassed with argon gas. And then he took some of it and then he put some in a plastic bag so it wasn't exposed to heat in his garage. And then here was one that was exposed to all the temperature fluctuations that were happening inside of Texas. All right. So that's if you're just now joining, now you're caught up. Here we go. On to sample 4. BP Glencairn. Let's see. JZ56 says, I believe that some bourbons to taste better or worse because of branding. The mind does make the whiskey taste better or worse despite the palate. Well, I'm not going to say anything, but that's half the reason why people get caught up in marketing and chasing after hype is because of branding. It's not because of the whiskey. It's because of branding. I can tell you a funny story. Ryan knows this one very well because it was one of his derby parties. I had capped and finished off a bottle of Pappy Van Winkle 15 year. And what did I do? I filled that motherfucker up with Old Forester and took it to the party. And what do you think people did? They went bananas thinking that they were drinking the best thing on earth. All right, here we go. Number 4. I'm going to go back to number 1 and just get a nose real quick for the control. Parrot head. Yeah, my face-to-face on YouTube side is on Instagram. I'm trying to go both ways. Wherever people are commenting most, that's what I'm going to start looking at. Forced smells a little bit more like the control. I'd say it's on par with the control. I'd probably say an 86 as well. Still a sweetness to it. Not much of a big difference. I remember the control having a little bit more of a bitter aftertaste. But that's just me. Which one has the cool water in it? I don't know yet. I guess we'll find out. Let's see. What do I think this was exposed to? I'm just gonna say oxygen wants no light, no heat. Did I do that one already? I did not. Okay. So I'm gonna go that one because I feel like it's pretty close to the control. Ryan thinks it's gassed. We'll see. Tasting notes. Traditional caramel vanilla. Maybe a little like a birthday cake going on with it as well. Parrothead says the podcast room has a better background. Actually, so the other room over here is, I guess you would call the podcast room. That's the bar, but that's where I usually just keep everything for my bar area. So I break down the podcast studio because we only record twice a year, and so we'll record all of our Thursday episodes in a span of a few weeks, and so we only record it over there. So I want to get my basement back, but we've got some other cool things in the works where we will have a podcast studio at some point in the near future. We'll be able to talk about it soon. Ryan said it tastes artificial. I don't know about that. It doesn't taste toasted. I can tell you that. Let's see. I think folks might calm down if we said fresh crack versus neck pour. I guess I could see that. Anybody else say anything over here? Thanks for sticking with me, y'all. Fun stuff. All right, moving on to numero cinco here. Number 5. At least the colors are all pretty consistent. I'm kind of figuring out, I don't know which one is like full heat, full light. No, there's only full light and no heat, and full heat and no light. Its nose still smells pretty good. Still reminiscent of Control, if I remember correctly, or the last one. No, bitter. 80. No, thank you. I'm gonna say full light, no oxygen, no heat. Bitter back end for sure. This is probably like people that like French oak casks finish is like full on French oak. That's what I'm getting on that one. At least on the end of it. It's not really French oak. It's just bitter. Okay, Ryan said, "Oh, that's bad." All right, I'm glad I'm not alone there. 77. Oh, you're right. Okay, I'm gonna take it. I'll take it down a notch. I'll take a 78. Yeah, that one did not taste good. Don't forget my Liquid Death. I'm not forgetting Liquid Death. I actually just got my water. Fred's on the Liquid Death kick, not me so much. Thanks for chiming in there, Jamie. All right. One little late. Just try to get some tasting notes out of this one. Or it's just like charcoal. Old musty clothes found at Goodwill. Not there's anything wrong with Goodwill, but you all know you walked into Goodwill, like you know what that smell is. All right, now I'm gonna drink some water before we hit the number 6 here. All right, number 6. Here we go. Last one. Getting at it. God damn, these tops just keep not wanting to stay on there. There we go. All right. Number 6, going into the Bardstown Bourbon Glencairn over here. Jamie thinks 5 has to be the light and the heat. I guessed it as full light, no heat. That's exactly what I guessed it as. So we'll see. I'd be interested to kind of know. The whole point of this is we're just helping Randy collect data so we can try to figure out, does something happen with your whiskey? At this point, I can tell you versus the Control, something does happen with your whiskey. On the nose, I don't know. I'm doing 6 of them. They kind of, there's a little bit of bitterness, a little funkiness on it, but not too crazy. Oh, Ryan just said it there. Nose is funky. But I don't know. It might still be reminiscent of the Control. Well, never mind. Control's a little bit more fruity, but I don't have much Control left. That's all the Control I got left. So now we're on to number 6. After the last one, this is much more redeeming. I'll put it at an 85. Yeah, I'd say I'll put it an 85 because the highest I think I gave was an 86. Yeah. Actually, I gave 2 86s. I gave another 85. Man, I'm inconsistent. All right, so that was Ryan says earthy. I'm going to go Tommy had to come on to LinkedIn to make sure I hit all the platforms. Well, I'm glad you're there too. Way to go. All right. Last one here. Tasting notes. Earthy, I can get that. I'd say like almost like sourdough bread a little bit. A little bit of must. There's still a good a nice funkiness, I guess I could say to it. That's what I'll put. That's a thing. As LinkedIn user says, tastes like Blanton's. Wouldn't that be funny if that just ends up this is all Blanton's at the end of the day? It's not, but I believe this is all Maker's Mark. But all right, if I had to guess my last one, what is this? Oxygen once with argon. I'm gonna say it's with argon. Oxygen, argon, 104 times, no light, no heat. That's what I'm gonna go with. Final answer. All right, I think I've got that all submitted. So there we go. So we did, and by the way, if you just now joined us and you've stuck around, and then Ryan's also in the chat. Right, what a dick. He says if this is Bland's, it would confirm it's average whiskey. So what this was a test over 2 years to try to figure out if your whiskey changes inside the bottle. So he bought 4, and this is all coming from Randy over at Bourbon Real Talk. Go and follow him. He's also got a podcast. Go and check it out. That's Shem over there. Nice job, Shem, on the Blanton's thing. So, purchased 4 bottles of whiskey, mixed all 4 of them together to eliminate any batch variants, filled 1/2 ounce sample bottles, capped them, put them in a Ziploc bag, and stored them in a temperature controlled environment with no exposure to light. Then I filled the 4 bottles back up, but only halfway, and then capped them, left them, and then had a few different variations. But one of them is that he put some with argon gas to see if that would help preserve it, versus some that were stored in direct light versus no light versus a few other different ways. So interesting experiment. I think it'll be interesting to see exactly what happens when all the data comes in. I'm trying to put stuff over there on the shelf. I got a little bit of my control. Now I have my control. I'm going to go back to it. But the idea is that we'll be able to see if your whiskey does change inside the bottle over time, because we all know that we've opened up a bottle. It takes a few 2, 3, 4 years sometime to go through it, because most of us has too much whiskey right now that it takes us that long to get through it. And it gets in us ability to try to figure out if we liked it when we first opened it, we don't like it a few weeks later, or it's vice versa. And you don't like it when you open it, but you wait a few weeks and then you try it again. You're like, holy shit, it actually tastes great. Well, this might have some validity to it. I guess that's the best way to put it. All right, back to the control. Last sip I got here. $83. Fuck, I might actually put that as an 82. It's a little bit bitter going back to it. It's not as there's some better ones than the control sample. That's for sure. There's some that had a little bit more funkiness, a little bit more I would say funkiness in a good way. If you've had a lot of dusties in your life, you would kind of know what that dustiness sort of is. Ryan had said it earlier, it's kind of a little earthy. You get a little bit of that into it. But there's a sweetness characteristic to it. And then you also get just a hint, just a little bit of hint of bitterness on the back end, though. But again, that's neither here nor there. All right, well, that's going to close it for the experiment. But I'll hang on for a few more seconds, or maybe a few more minutes. Who knows? Answer some questions. Now I can pour myself another pour of United Rye over here. Get into something different. I'll rate this one after doing all that. How about that? 100s all around. So it's that bad. That's right. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. Let's see. Somebody just said, would have been interested to see how much difference a clear sample bottle would have been. That's a good question. I'm not too sure, because all I know is what was sent to me. I think this was this was a 2-year test to try and get to this point where we got all of the pieces inside the experiment. I'm just thankful that I was honored enough to be able to be a part of it. So I'm happy to do that and put my I'd say my palate to the test. But this is just one of those things that I'm just excited to be able to do it in general. Yeah. Tommy says, wait, it just tastes like sample 3. Some of those. Let's see. Tim just said, it sounds like all scored better than control except 5. Maybe. No, there was one that was definitely lower. Yeah, which was 5. Who knows? Maybe there's something to it. Maybe it's just. Here's the thing. I remember this vividly now because I believe it happened a few years ago. It was definitely before COVID. And Blake from before, I don't even think Sealbox was a thing, and he was still doing his thing on Bourboner. He sent me and Ryan and a few of the people different samples, and we were trying to figure out exactly either what they were or what makes the best wheated bourbons, so on and so forth. And I remember he sent I think it was 6 or 7 different wheated bourbon samples. Of course, Weller 107, Maker's Mark, but he also threw in a Dusty Maker's Mark, which was good, but didn't rank very high in a blind. But you know which one consistently won out of a lot of people was when he took Poor Man's Pappy. And that's, you can go to bourboner.com or Google Poor Man's Pappy. You can see the ratio of Weller 107 to Weller 12. But he put that inside of a Ninja blender and aerated it and blended it up and ended up being the best thing that anybody. And by the way, that was better than just the regular Poor Man's Pappy that he just blended together, just putting it together. So there's got to be something that is said about throwing it in a blender and aerating stuff. So there you go. There might be some validity to that. Well, as we keep going here, I'm just going to answer some questions. I'm drinking some United Rye now. So happy to answer anything either about this experiment, about the podcast, about our brand, about whatever you want to know. I'm here for another few more minutes until I'd say I get kicked out of here, but whatever. Let's see. JZ56. Are you headed to Bardstown Bourbon Company this weekend to grab some Origin Series whiskeys? I'm looking forward to this release. I am not heading there. I have some mini sample bottles that they had sent me. Ryan and I have not yet gotten to them yet, but I'm sure they're fantastic. We use pretty much Bardstown in all of our blends, of course, in United Rye as well as United Bourbon. So we're happy with them. I'm sure it's fantastic. We're excited for them to come out with their own stuff, because I think that once they do and more people get a chance to be able to try it, you'll have an appreciation for what they're doing. And so I feel that the tides will shift just a little bit from everybody trying to just chase a bunch of MGP. Don't get me wrong, MGP is good stuff, but there's a lot of people chasing 5-year stuff that I'm not quite sure why, because it's a lot of the same stuff out there. But once you get a chance to be able to try Bardstown Bourbon Companies, if you didn't get a chance to try ours, even though we put Bardstown Bourbon Company in ours, but if you come from a bigger name and then you realize that we're using the same exact stuff, then hopefully you give us a try as well. Jamie says, remind me, will you be at Bourboncon Lexington? Yes, I will be at Bourboncon Lexington at the end of this month. We just started running some ads on the podcast for it as well. So I might be there on Friday, but I will definitely be there on Saturday. I'll be manning the booth. Plus, I will also have a speaking session at Bourboncon Lexington. And if I remember correctly, my topic is there a bourbon shortage, or is bourbon overcrowded? So we'll talk about that. And of course, I can give you the short of it. I believe that there is no bourbon shortage. There is a psyche of people thinking there's a bourbon shortage. Dramhound, any idea when Pursuit United may be distributed to Massachusetts? No, not yet. We're still trying to figure out how to play the sales and distribution game, and we're continually working and making and trying to refine and make more improvements there. To be fair, that is probably our weakest spot when it comes to everything that Ryan and I do is sales and distribution. We're doing our best to try and make that happen. If you listen to the last episode of Behind the Pursuit that aired yesterday, we kind of talked about a lot of things that we learned in 2022. And one of those is that we're not good at sales and distribution, which is great because it's an opportunity for us to learn. But at the same exact time, it is something that we've got to get through. So we're really, I don't want to open up any more states just because we need to take care of the issues that we currently have in our existing markets. It's one of those things of building and forming relationships with distributors and stores. And it's an old school game at the end of this. Coming into it, we thought that, oh, we're a podcast, we're digital first, we're out there, we're marketed, everything like that. And we knew that we had just a kind of a niche audience already, but it's very apparent that the way that everything works in this industry, it's all handshake based. So you've got to make sure you go to those particular markets. You got to meet the stores. You got to meet the owners. You got to hand sell one case at a time. It's not what you call a volume play, but heck, that's just the way it works. And so we're trying to figure out how to navigate those waters. Zephyrson's Starship just asked, is there any definitive results from the oxidation test? So no, this was not results. This was us, I'd say, drinking the data, best way to be able to put it, and being able to give our input on what we thought between all the different samples and what we believe were the variables at play. So that gave us a way to be able to provide our data. That data is going to be collected and then shared later on to then figure out, does your whiskey change in the bottle via argon, via whatever else too. Let's see. Yeah, Drifting Drams. Yeah, Dave Pickerel said, own your backyard first, but your backyard's Kentucky. Yeah, that's definitely the tough one. I see Distillery 291 just joined. See, they own their backyard in Colorado, so that's definitely one of those things. Yeah, you got to own your backyard, but yeah, in Kentucky, it's a very difficult market. There's just too much competition, too many people here. So what we want to do is we're not trying to boil the ocean by any means, but we just got to make sure that we're paying attention to the markets that we're in, and we're not just giving up in poor performing markets, but instead we are putting an emphasis on making sure that we can better support them by showing up, by building our brand ambassador program. By the way, if you are in any of our distributed states and you want to be a brand ambassador, I always put it out there. I will pay you. I will literally pay you to drink whiskey and do in-store tastings and stuff like that. So that's in Kentucky, Tennessee, Colorado, New Mexico, Texas, Georgia, Illinois, Ohio, and I'm missing another one in there, Missouri. So if you're in any of those states and you want to get paid to drink whiskey, let me know. I can help you out with that. Let's see. Oh, Tim Field just said, do you have any lists out there? What states Pursuit is being distributed in now? I just told you. So hopefully you can get that. If you can't get in those states, then go and check it out at Sealbox. You can go to pursuitspirits.com and they will ship it to 20 some odd states or whatever. So come to Massachusetts. I know. I used to go to Boston all the time. I love going to Boston, man. Clam chowder, hook me up. I'm all about it. I'll go to the Haba, get some chowder. Ooh, Matt says, when you get some Pursuit tank tops. Hold on, Matt. We might have you beat there, buddy, because I think there might be some on the store. They might just not fit you properly. So just pulled it off the rack. But yeah, we got some Pursuit tanks. They're women's festival tanks, but we do have some Pursuit tanks. So if you help yourself of doing that, I think there's only a handful left on the shop online though. Oh yeah, Tommy says Julio's in Massachusetts, fantastic. Yeah, that's Ryan's amazing. Ryan Maloney over there. He's been on the show before. Fantastic guy. Wealth of knowledge. I used to go to Boston all the time for work, go to visit Julio's. I not killed, but I finished off a bottle of Bernheim wheat that was a store pick of theirs before they brought that back. I don't know if they brought that back recently. No, they just have it on the You Do Bourbon tour now. But back when they used to do Bernheim wheat, so I have a store pick of that I killed off not too long ago. I also have some old Black Maple Hills. Remember those, the orange labels? I picked up a few of those that are from around there. So sitting around. Dan says, hopefully Indiana, you're already close. I know. Like I said, we can't open up more states right now just because we need to fix where we're at. We'll get there. Jamie, like I said, you're in Ohio. Cool. If you, I'll tell you, I will pay you to drink whiskey. Shoot me an email, kenny@pursuitspirits.com. I'll give you all the information. You too, Eric. Same thing. I'll pay you to drink whiskey. All you gotta do is just, you gotta be one of those people that, you walk into Total Wine and they're like, oh, hey, try this, try this, try this. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna pay you to do that. The thing is because I would much rather pay people that know about whiskey, that care about the brand, that want to seek success, instead of just paying some agency that shows up and they don't know anything about us. They don't know how to tell a story. So I want to make sure that we put our dollars in the right places. So if you're interested, let me know. Always happy to make that happen. That tank would look spectacular in Dusty Dan. Yeah, probably. Jackie, you're welcome. Glad we're in Missouri. Hopefully you pick up a few bottles. Let's see. Matt said, need me to rock bennies? Matt, if you want to do some bennies, let's do it, man. We actually have a pretty good Chicago crew right now. I think we got 4 people in Chicago that are just tearing up all the Benny stores right now. If I had to guess, at the end of this year, I think Illinois might be our biggest market because of just how well our ambassadors are doing up there. They're just rolling through product in those stores. Can I make a tasting room in my building as a brand ambassador? Of course you can. You tell me what you need. I will make that happen, Eric. Not even a problem, man. Pay me in tank tops. We can get new ones made. I can get you some. Maybe we'll do some. I've always wanted to do some tie-dye stuff. So that's why I really liked the Rare Character bottle we did this past year. If anybody remembers it, it was a 6-year BBC rye that we selected. But I was just in this very, I'm not going to say like it's like a trance sort of mode, but or doing mushrooms or anything, but I was like, let's just go psychedelic with it. And so that's why it's like a Bourbon Pursuit microphone that's melting with purple and green and all this other kind of stuff. And that's why I said, I was like, that'd be kind of cool. So yeah, if you want to do some tank tops that get a little psychedelic, I don't know, maybe we could do that too. Ryan just said he's out on the tie-dye. That's too bad, man. Tie-dye's in. It's really in right now. I mean, there's actually a really good Instagram account. I got to go find it. But it's amazing. It's an insane tie-dye. Remind me after this. I'll try to find it. But there is, I mean, it's like a one shirt takes like 16 hours or more to do. Maybe it was like 48 hours. Anyway, it's ridiculous. They do all these little things. They got Rick and Morty and tie-dye and all this other kind of stuff. And it's insane. It's insane. I can't do it. But it's a work of art. And every week he will post like 2 or 3 shirts for sale. And those shirts, I shit you not, on Instagram, they'll go for sale for anywhere between $500 to $1,200 a piece for one shirt. It's awesome. Yeah, see those BBC Rise from Rare Character, they were delicious. We had one of them. They were amazing. JP says, tasting United Bourbon now. Nose with citrus and briny, creamy caramel. We like that. I think, Eric, you agree with Cecil. You all think that the tie-dye is for the teenagers. I don't know, man. Like I said, it's coming back. Just give it a chance. I'll be turning 40 this year. That's the thing I'm probably most scared about, is turning 40. So I'm trying to get all my my youth stuff out, I guess, while I can, because I think once you turn 40, you just have to accept it. You're there, and I don't know. If you're over 40, give me some confidence going into 2023, because right now I'm just trying to cope with it. That's all it is, right? Just coping. Other things I'll kind of talk about before we hang up here. I've been talking for a few minutes. If you didn't catch this last week, I should say this last week, yesterday's episode of This Week in Bourbon. God, why do I keep saying that? Behind the Pursuit. This Week in Bourbon comes out on Friday. So this Behind the Pursuit comes out every other week on Wednesdays. So go and subscribe to that. It's different than the Bourbon Pursuit feed, but it's all about building the brand and everything like that. So Ryan and I, we talked about everything we learned in 2022 and going into next year. And a lot of that is just lessons. We talked about earlier about sales and distribution and other things that we're trying to make happen. But we also dropped a few little hints of things that we're working on. And hopefully we'll be able to have a home base to be able to talk about here in the next few months. We want to make sure we, dot some I's, cross some T's, whatever it is, and sign away our life to make a really cool thing for you all. So really excited to be able to share about that. There we go. Smooth. I'm 46 and drinking your bourbon. You're already beyond crushing it. Cheers, man. Cheers to you on that one. And the Dram Hound over here, mid 40s, anti tie-dye. I get it. And then today was also the release of the Tequila episode, which that one, actually, before I talk about that, Matt says, Amberana finish blend, please be the first ones. I will let Ryan be the first to comment in there that Ryan is probably going to be the anti-Amberana cask finish. And to be fair, I have only had one Amberana cask finish. Shout out to Pablo from Rare Character. He gave it to me. Tried it. For me, it tasted like straight, and it was one that's gonna be going to Cosmo in Vegas. Everybody knows Cosmo. Great place to go because it's a Marriott resort. You get the points when you stay there, but it tasted straight of like gingerbread. And I taste it and I go, this is cool once, but I don't think I could drink this again. So it was one thing you can go through once and then you're like, okay, on to something else. So far I have had one Amberana finish and I am not feeling it. But here's the thing is that people are always chasing the last one or the next one. I don't know. That's just how it is. There you go. JP said, I had the Rare Character Amberana, cinnamon and apple. That's kind of, cinnamon and apple, like I said, I just got straight gingerbread cookie when I tasted it. And it was kind of cool. Like I said, it was cool to drink it first because you're like, okay, that's one. But I don't think I could go back again. I just couldn't do it. But that's, people always want interesting and unique things. And that's one of those things is like, when we did the oak collection, we talked about it on Behind the Pursuit a few times already, just to say that we are very hesitant in even going that direction. And that's because things in that world are so, it's Wild West, man. Like there's people just can add whatever. If you want to do a port finish, you can just add a gallon of port. Your rum barrels aren't getting any rum finished into it. Just add a gallon of rum. It doesn't matter. And it loses the authenticity of what you get out of a finished whiskey. And I'm not even going to say there's anybody that's doing it right, because the way that world works is that there's so many gray lines or gray areas that people can play in. So what's right or what's wrong, it's depending on the person. The same thing that people will talk about, like, oh, your rum is sugar added and so on and so forth. And well, depending if rum has sugar added into it, that's based on the culture of where it comes from, but it's still rum at the end of the day. And even Drifting Dram says cognac finish or bust. Same exact fucking thing. Like people can add a gallon of cognac to it. So you don't really know if it's real cognac in there or not. Now, don't be wrong. I like cognac. I like Armagnac finish. I like finishes for the most part. But man, there is just so much stuff that's out there that you just don't know what goes into it. So that's why we were very hesitant in going into that, because we're purists at the end of the day. But knowing that the audience, the changing I guess the way that people are looking at whiskey and what they want, you've got to look at the market, and you've got to dictate and look at what the market does. And that's just what we looked at. And so we did that. I'm glad that we went the way that we went, because I felt that what we did is that, knowing that we partnered with Interstate, we talked about all the time, we partnered with Interstate with it. And by utilizing oak cubes that were from staves that have been broken down, chopped into cubes, rather than just using an X barrel. Well, A, because it's cost prohibitive, or sitting there and just dumping stuff into it, because that's still considered a whiskey specialty. We are able to only influence of just oak only. But with ours, we also didn't just do it so much that is, I mean, you've probably tasted a lot of toasted finished bourbons. We all have. And there is this artificial taste to it where it's just like, I mean, I even had it in, because the pioneer in all this is Michter's. I feel like Pioneer is actually probably Woodford, but Michter's is the one that kind of really made it famous because they called it toasted, even though Woodford did the double oak thing, but Michter's did the toasted. But even sometimes Michter's has this artificial taste to it, just because it's just it was in there too long, and it really lost the character of the bourbon. And it's just like this cough syrup cherry kind of flavor to it. And I am not a big fan of that. And so what we wanted to do is not fall into that trap of doing that. So what we want to do is still make that blend still shine through, but giving just a different flavor nuance into it. And we can do that with the cubes. I mean, it just brings in, and when I say cubes, it's the same damn thing as doing Maker's 46. If you try Maker's 46, I don't really think anything in Maker's 46 tastes an artificial profile. I feel like what they do is still very much in the guardrails of what you would still consider a really good finished whiskey, because all they're doing is they're taking staves that have been treated differently and then tossing them into the barrel and letting that interact with the whiskey. So I feel like what they're doing is very analogous to what we're doing, because we're not introducing anything else into it. And this is, again, just me being probably more transparent than I need to be of everything that goes into it. But again, that's just me going at it there. A few other comments that came in while I was going on a rant there. Let's see. Drifting Dram says, that's a shame. I'd be fine with them adding actual cognac if they were transparent. Well, the thing is, you'll never know. You just take a guess. But there's nothing wrong. Like I said, I'm not pointing fingers. There's plenty of people that are doing right things out there. But here's the thing, is that whether they're doing right or whether they're doing it wrong, it's all in the same category. And people don't care, because as long as it tastes good, then whatever. So people don't really care. Eric says, I think the label of cigar batch is a marketing ploy. Not bad. That's a good hot take. I feel that we had, Magnus was the first one that capitalized on cigar batch. And I don't think you can take anything away from Nancy Fraley. If I did say that Nancy Fraley probably does everything to the T, that's what I'm going to guess. I don't think there's any kind of, any kind of, run amok or anything like that going on the back end. I think that everything that she's doing is probably to a reasonable degree of honesty into there. I know that the second one that really made a big splash was the Starlight. I never had a chance to try the Starlight, so I can't comment on it, but I know the folks there, they do an amazing thing. But that is a thing, is that when you see a cigar batch, people will potentially just latch onto it and just start calling stuff cigar batch because whatever. It pairs with a cigar. Well, I think if you try to taste any whiskey that's on your shelf, I guarantee you'll find one that pairs with a cigar that isn't called a cigar batch. That's just the way it is. Oh, finished whiskey. So they're saying Finnish whiskey. Well, Avid Trojan. I don't know. I haven't had a lot of Finnish whiskey from Finland, so who knows? All right. Cheers, Pursuit United, and go green. Yeah, sure. Matt Cusick said Woodford started, but Michter's perfected it. Like I said, I think Woodford did start because they started the double oaking thing, but Michter started the toasting thing. Whether you want to say who started, actually, I got a great little tidbit here. So there's a new book coming out to the market. It's called, I'm going to pull it up before I I butchered here real quick. It's in my email. I had to do a review slash a endorsement for the book, and I didn't give an endorsement until I finished reading it, and I believe it was really good. And it's a book called Cask Strength that's coming out. And I'll give you a little bit of a preview. Actually, I'm not going to give you a preview. I'm going to tell you a little bit out of this only because there was a little bit of tidbit in here, and I found it incredibly interesting. Because next time we go into the recording season, Ryan, Fred, and me are going to record a podcast called Will Secondary Cask Finish Bourbons Follow the Craft Beer Craze? Because now nobody wants to go and just buy a regular IPA. They've got to be crazy IPAs or citrus IPAs or hoppies or crazy stouts or whatever. And so all of these sort of one-off things kill just the regular type of beer. And that's where we probably see bourbon going towards are all these cask finishes just going to kill off people drinking regular good bourbon? And we'll talk about it. But when we talked about before is like, did Woodford start this craze or whatever? But there was an excerpt out of here that I wanted to talk about it's a book. It's called Cask Strength. It should be coming out in July of 2023. I gave it a good read, a lot of great information, and it's nothing except talking about casks. When I say talking about casks, that's just talking about barrel history, the influence of barrels over time, and stuff like that too. So what it said is that Buffalo, and this is his doing his research, it said that Buffalo Trace actually started the cask finish movement, and that they had 4 experimental releases back in 2007, and it said this set the cat among the pigeons. There were 2 Chardonnay aged bourbons and 2 Zinfandel aged bourbons. Purists took an issue with the distillery for this, saying that the name implied that it was bourbon aged in Chardonnay or Zinfandel barrels, which is not legally bourbon. And the distillery stance was that it was merely a description of what was, quote, aged bourbon. From a grammatical point of view, they were correct. So you add a hyphen and call it Chardonnay aged bourbon, and now you're in trouble. So there you go. Buffalo Trace is at it again, taking probably the helm of the start of the cask finish craze. And that was back in 2007. So, all right. All right, last little thing here. Drifting Drams, thank you. Glad you like the oak collection. I appreciate it, man. We're putting everything we have into this business. When I say everything, I mean literally everything. Our time, our money. We want to make it successful. So I appreciate you all supporting us, buying a bottle of United, trying it, sharing it with friends. It truly means the world to us. And then let's see, probably Matt Layton's over there says, I wish they'd stand up to some regulations around it. Consumers have no clue what they're getting. Some of these finishes are motor oil and color. That's the way it is, man. And people will buy it. So, and can you go to bed? You look exhausted. That is going to do it for me tonight. So I appreciate you all staying with me and hanging in there for a little bit. And this was a really fun experiment. So if you're just now joining, you're way late because we were doing some oxidation tests a little while ago. I think we gave some good data back from everything. But if you have any other more questions, because I probably can't sleep, and if you have anything, feel free to send me an email, kenny@bourbonpursuit.com. I'm always happy to answer questions. If you have ideas for the show, guests that you want to have on, topics that you want Ryan, Fred, and I to discuss at some point, please feel free to send it my way, and I'd be more than happy to put it into the rotation, because we're always looking for fun topics, which I think the most fun one we're going to talk about was a question that came in as an above the char, and I'll leave this with you tonight, is that would bourbon be popular without Buffalo Trace? Think about that one. All right. With that, cheers, everybody. We'll see y'all later.